As the months passed, Raina's life became more and more difficult. She worked hard every day in Mr. Dalton's household, and though she was learning new skills, the weight of the work and the pressure of the debt hung heavily over her. But one evening, her world changed. Her grandmother, who had always been a comforting presence in her life, became very ill. Raina could see that her grandmother was weak and tired, her face pale and thin. Raina was heartbroken. Her grandmother had always been the one to tell her stories, to teach her how to sew, and to remind her of the love and strength of their family. One evening, as Raina sat by her grandmother's bedside, holding her hand, her grandmother whispered, "Don't forget, child. Family is everything. Keep them close." A few days later, her grandmother passed away. The loss was devastating. Raina's heart felt empty, and the sadness was deep. She returned to her parents' cottage for the funeral, but even in her grief, she found strength in the lessons her grandmother had taught her. The memories of her grandmother's stories and kindness stayed with her, and Raina promised herself that she would continue to honor her legacy. As the seasons changed, Raina's burden grew heavier. She worked even harder in Mr. Dalton's household, taking on more and more responsibilities. She watched as Mr. Dalton's wealth grew, while her family struggled to make ends meet. Raina often found herself wondering if she would always be trapped in this life. She didn't want to be tied to the land forever, working for someone else. She wanted to live her own life, free from the constraints of Mr. Dalton's control. But how could she do that? She didn't have the answers, only the hope that one day things would change. As the years passed, Raina's life in Mr. Dalton's house became routine. Each day, she woke early, worked tirelessly through the morning and afternoon, and returned to her small quarters at night. Despite her long hours, Raina began to save small amounts of money from the little she earned, even though it wasn't much. It wasn't easy, but she was determined. Every coin she managed to save felt like a step towards something better. One evening, as she sat alone in her small room, Raina looked at the little jar where she kept her savings. It was only a small collection of coins, but to Raina, it represented her dream, the dream of freedom. She wanted to pay off her family's debt to Mr. Dalton. She wanted to buy land, to give her family the chance to live a life without the weight of debt and endless work. "I can do this," Raina whispered to herself, even though doubt lingered in her mind. It was a long shot, but the idea of helping her family escape their struggles filled her with determination. Every evening, after finishing her work, Raina would sneak a few coins into the jar. Sometimes it was just a few pennies, but over time, it added up. She also began looking for other ways to earn extra money. She would offer to help the other workers, do extra chores for Mr. Dalton's family, or assist the village neighbors with small tasks. Every opportunity to earn a little more, Raina took it. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. Mrs. Yara, who had become like a second mother to Raina, noticed her hard work and dedication. One afternoon, after they finished preparing a large meal for Mr. Dalton's guests, Mrs. Yara spoke to her privately. "You're doing a lot more than you realize, Raina," Mrs. Yara said, her kind eyes watching her with warmth. "You're strong. I've seen how hard you've been working, not just for Mr. Dalton, but for your family. Keep going. You'll find a way." Raina felt her heart swell at the older woman's words. Mrs. Yara had always been there for her, offering advice and support when she needed it most. Her words gave Raina strength, reminding her that she was not alone, even though the work sometimes felt overwhelming. "Thank you, Mrs. Yara," Raina said softly, feeling more sure of herself than before. "I will find a way." It was a few months later when an unexpected opportunity arose. Aaliyah, the girl from the traveling merchant family, returned to Sunhill. Raina had not seen her in some time, and when she saw Aaliyah and her family passing through the village again, her heart skipped a beat. "Raina!" Aaliyah called out, waving with excitement as she spotted her. Aaliyah had grown taller since the last time they saw each other, and there was a sparkle in her eyes as always. "Aaliyah, it's so good to see you again," Raina responded, walking toward her friend. They hugged briefly, both of them smiling. Aaliyah noticed the tiredness in Raina's face. "You look worn out," she said gently. "How have you been?" Raina hesitated before answering. "Busy, working a lot," she replied, her voice quiet. "I've been helping my family. It's not easy, but I'm doing what I can." Aaliyah nodded. "I understand. My family travels a lot, but it's not always easy. We don't own a home like you do, but we're always moving, always working. But Raina, I've been thinking. There's an opportunity that might help you." Raina's interest piqued. "What do you mean?" "Well, my family is looking for someone to help with our trade," Aaliyah explained. "It's not much at first, but you would travel with us, and we pay well. It could help you make enough to pay off your family's debts, and you'd see the world, different places, different people. You could start saving, maybe even start a new life." Raina's heart raced. The idea of leaving Sunhill, of traveling and earning money, was everything she had dreamed of. But there was a part of her that felt guilty. Her family needed her. How could she leave them behind, even for a short time? Aaliyah saw the hesitation in Raina's eyes. "I know it's hard. I know you love your family. But think about it. You're already working so hard here, and this might be a way for you to get ahead. Your family needs you, I can see that. But you can't help them if you stay in the same place, always stuck in the same routine. Raina's heart was torn. She loved her family and didn't want to leave them, but the thought of earning more money, of changing their lives, was so tempting. "I'll talk to my parents," Raina said slowly, "but I'm not sure they'll let me go." Aaliyah smiled warmly. "I understand. Take your time. But if you want this, it's waiting for you." After many nights of thinking, Raina finally made the decision to leave. Her parents were hesitant at first, worried about her going so far away from home, but they understood. They knew that this was Raina's chance. She would be able to earn enough money to help them, to pay off the debt, and maybe one day buy a piece of land where they could live freely. The day Raina left Sun Hill was bittersweet. She hugged her father and mother tightly, feeling the tears in her eyes as she kissed them goodbye. Sammy, her little brother, clung to her, not fully understanding why she had to go. "Be safe, Raina," her mother said, her voice trembling. "And don't forget, we love you." "I'll write to you, Mama," Raina promised. "I'll send letters, and I'll come back soon. I'll help us all." With a heavy heart, Raina left Sun Hill behind, stepping onto the road with Aaliyah and her family. As they walked away from the village, Raina glanced back one last time, wondering what the future would bring. Traveling with Aaliyah's family was unlike anything Raina had ever experienced. She had never left Sun Hill before, and the world outside felt vast and new. They passed through towns and villages, met new people, and saw the wonders of life beyond the fields she had known. Though Raina's heart still longed for home, she was beginning to feel the excitement of independence. She worked hard, helping Aaliyah's family with their trade and earning money. They paid her well, and with each coin she earned, she added to her savings. Slowly but surely, she was getting closer to her goal: to pay off her family's debt and give them a better life. The work was hard, but it was different. She was not under the constant pressure of Mr. Dalton's demands. She was learning new skills, meeting new people, and seeing places that filled her with wonder. Raina knew that this journey was the first step toward the future she had dreamed of. And as she wrote letters to her family, telling them about the new places she had seen and the things she had learned, Raina felt a sense of hope that she had never known before. This was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Years passed, and Raina worked tirelessly, saving every penny she could. Her hard work paid off. She had saved enough money to pay off her family's debt, and then some. When she returned to Sunhill, she was a different person, stronger, more confident, and ready to help her family build a new life. Raina bought a small piece of land not far from the village where her family could live and work for themselves. It was a dream come true. The land was modest, but it was theirs. Raina and her parents worked together to build a home. They planted crops, grew vegetables, and raised animals, creating a life free from Mr. Dalton's control. Raina's family settled into their new life with joy and peace. They had their own land, their own work, and a new sense of freedom. Raina continued to help her parents and also shared her knowledge with the village children. She taught them how to read, just as her father had taught her. Raina felt proud of what they had accomplished. Though the journey had been long and difficult, it had been worth it. She had given her family a chance for a better future, and in doing so, she had found her own path toward independence and happiness.